Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Ryan.
How are you going on this fine, fine day of recording? Are you excited? Are you happy? Are you thrilled? How are you?
I'm okay.
You're okay. Rachel, would it be even better if Amos had a sex scene in this episode? Would you be much more than okay? Is it a come down from last week where they gave us that?
A little.
Saying it through tears and biting of the teeth down a little. I'm doing okay as well. I'm doing just fine because we watched an episode of The Expanse that was just fine. It was just okay. It was perfectly...
Did its job.
It was there. It did its job.
It was pretty much what we expected from this episode.
How about we boost our spirits a little bit more by remembering that we are Yum Yum Podcast because of a wonderful moment from Star Trek Discovery, a series that is so mind-bogglingly frustrating that it inspired us to be podcasters in the first place. And this moment of Yum Yum was in the season 2 finale. It is a line of dialogue in which the intention of it is to be a little bit cheeky, a little bit fun, a little bit sexy, and yet its implementation was just so out of left field that it left us just scratching our heads and saying, why did they do that? And here we are, many, many years later, still asking, why did they do that? But we are here to talk about The Expanse, a science fiction series that is a first for us. We have never seen The Expanse before. This is all new to us. Every episode that we are discussing is something that we haven't really contended with before. Now, when we first began this, I had seen a handful of episodes, but we're well beyond that now. We are in season 4. A land of complete wonderment because things have changed in The Expanse. We have new terrain, new sets of characters, new dynamics, new aesthetics, new music, new this, new that, and it's on Amazon. So things have changed on a meta level.
I just want to interject with a small thing that I really noticed this episode, which is... they have their handhelds. I'm assuming it was a direction thing because all of the characters started doing this, which was holding their handhelds like they were a normal phone on loudspeaker.
Oh, right. Sorry, I thought you were talking about like handheld cameras that they film the show with. I'm like, I don't remember them having too many Steadicam. They're walkie-talkies.
Yes.
Their radios. Oh, okay. Yes, their phones and stuff. I haven't noticed.
It was bugging me because previously it's just like they just held them.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just like, it was more like a tablet situation, even when they were using them as phones.
I always forget that this is a universe where they have like a mobile phone.
They just default back, and it was weirding me out because I'm like, you don't need to hold it like that.
Yes, you do. You know why? Because they're translucent and they have an effect on them. And they have to hold it like that so we, the audience, visually see who they're talking to without cutting to the person they are talking to. That's the shorthand that I get from it, but I haven't looked at it through a microscope like you have.
It was just a weird thing that I noticed.
Keep an eye out on it, and I was just like, in future episodes. And
do you think we're dumb? We realize that it's the phone.
We realize it's a phone, but
you don't need to hold it like that.
Could you hold my hand and tell me what the name of the episode was and what IMDb's description of it is?
Well, it's also the Blu-ray description, as we sadly learnt. Subduction is the name of the episode, Ryan. And its description is: new alien threats emerge on Illis as Naomi battles health challenges on the planet. Bobby searches for a missing person on Mars. Avasarala faces a new challenge in the UN.
Nancy Gao has been preparing, and she doesn't have to spend all her time keeping the world safe.
Don't worry. A nice, clean battle where I know who the real enemy is. I'm looking forward to it.
If you are not familiar with our podcast before this, we have a Yum Yum moment in which we talk about a particularly sexual or charged piece within an episode, because Yum Yum was horny. It was a horny line. The lady licked her lips, threw her hair back, and said it breathily, sexily, yummily.
Expanse, it
hasn't.
established itself as a horny show. It hasn't always followed through on that. But
Did it live up to any of it this week? Last week we had a sex scene. This week, no sex scenes.
No.
And it's such a sadness, because how do you pick anything in this? And the only thing I have, because Rachel has two picks, she has an ordinary one and one related to Amos, because she's very horny for him, because Wes Chatham is a big boy. Not height-wise, he's in fact short, but muscular-wise, he's in fact big. But I feel like I could take him. But I chose Christian and her new husband, when I say new husband, newly cast actor, talking about foot massages and how he owes her one, because unlike with Brian George, to give this actor some praise, because I feel like we're not going to really give him many pieces of praise during the run because we love Brian George.
He's starting at a deficit for us.
He's horny.
No fault of his own.
He's horny.
He is horny.
He, unlike Brian George, I feel has had a sexual relationship with Christian. While when it was Brian George, yeah, you could assume that, but it never felt like these were horny characters. But now there's a certain electricity in the air between them, that when that door closes, is something going to happen physically between the two? It may be. And unlike previously with this character, that maybe exists, while before wasn't even on my mind. Now, what about you, Rachel? What did you find particularly yum in Subduction?
I also picked a Avasarala moment, but one that I was just like, I feel like she's getting turned on by this. Which is when she's talking about how she's really excited to battle Gao. She's like, a clear fight. God damn it, I'm excited. I didn't know down
She
the
knows
exact
who
line.
her enemy is, and that she can make a direct attack. There is no secrecy, ambiguity, muddledness. It is oh so clear, and she knows how to take people down. And what was your Amos pick? Everyone makes bets, everyone makes suggestions, everyone makes a pick of some sort of what Rachel thinks will be the Amos moment of the episode, and what was it?
So, it was very clearly going to be from the scene where he steals the generator.
Oh, okay.
It was going to be from that bit. I knew that. And then I was just like, do I go with him in the fight? Because, you know, that's always sexy. But I think I'm going to go for his line. Does that mean we're not fucking anymore?
After he has made a little bit of a incident with the RCE, his love interest or his fuck buddy tells him off, and he takes all of this in and his whole register is, so does this mean we're not going to fuck? Give it to her though. She immediately is like, well, no, I'm not saying that, because she clearly wants to still get fucked by him. Because wouldn't you? Evidently, yes.
Yeah, but she, like, I think she was just like, wait.
That's great.
I'm saying that I would kill you if I had to, and you're like,
sex though? I thought this was, as stated, a perfectly serviceable episode. It was fine.
Serviceable's a good word for it.
I think that this one has solidified my liking of the first episode of the season. I was a bit apprehensive. I gave that one a yum in the end, but it was an episode where definitely as we progressed, I would see the value of it a bit more. And I think that has come to pass with this, because this episode succeeds when it does because of the stuff that had come before it. Now, as its own piece, as its own 45 minutes to an hour long thing, it's not particularly amazing. It's not particularly wowing. It's not making me think of things deeper than what is on the surface. But we do not exist in that line of thought with this series, because this is ongoing storytelling, and you have to look at it as a part of a larger puzzle. And in that way, I think this episode is really, really good with what we have been given in season 4. This is probably the best episode we've watched of the season thus far.
Moving everything forward just a little bit. I thought it did have a lot of interesting elements, but nothing that made me engaged in the episode. It made me engaged in the story.
I'm very much reminded of the first season in its storytelling, in its way of getting into the messaging, the themes, even some of the plots that we're getting into feel very reminiscent of season 1. This has a communion with it. And I said in the first episode of season 4 that it's almost like we're doing a retake on the first season. Like if they had what they have now, like the production, the cast, and the expertise of writing, and got to redo the first season, would it be better? And I just want to get your thoughts on that. Like, do you feel the same, that this is much more like where we started with than where we were?
Yeah. I agree with that. And we felt like that at the start of each book within the show, really, that you felt the reset. And this is just feels even more extreme because we're in such a different situation with the story that's being told, as well as all of the production stuff as well. Like, they're on the Rossi crew's on a planet. We've never had that before.
Yeah.
Christians in charge at the UN, that's new, and that makes everything feel different again.
We're getting a deeper insight and look and on-the-ground perspective of Martian society, something we haven't really had before, because we looked at Martian society purely through the marine lens. We haven't seen it outside of a military fashion, other than with Alex being a fuckhead.
Yeah.
And even then, that's from afar.
Mm-hmm. So there's all of these things that sort of accentuate those differences.
What it does have that season 1 brought in was we're slowing down on plot, instead focusing on the world, the societies, the cultures, and the characters. So do I get a lot of material on a thematic or philosophical, metaphysical level or sci-fi level from the Illis stuff? Not particularly, but it is giving us more of a look into Belter culture, the conflict that they have with the Inners, and how our crew of characters and the RCE accentuate the overwhelming and historical conflicts between these factions. You cut back to Christian, and it's like in season 1 where we cut away from all of the, what you could say is the meat and potatoes of the show, to what is this slow burn political intrigue. You cut away, and then you had that in season 1 where she exists over here. And with Bobby's stuff, it's very much like how season 1 was with the Belters, in which you follow a character who is themselves this thing. So in her case, a Martian, who is rejected from their society, or they have removed themselves from it even though they're physically there. And they find themselves on a case, or they find themselves embroiled in some kind of OPA crime thing. And slowly through that, they're They're kind of adjusting to what it does mean to be blank. So in Miller's case in season 1, what does it mean to be a belter? And in Bobby's case, what does it mean to be a Martian? Characters who find themselves in these noir detective gangstery stories, and they're going down the rabbit hole of what it is to be such and such. So there is a lot of connectivity to the first season, and I guess I'm going to have to accept that a bit more because, again, what we were given in season 3 was so my jam that it's a bit disconcerting to stop and then go back several steps and kind of retrace where we were.
All those sensors and guidance systems we built for war, they're sitting in warehouses gathering dust, waiting for you to throw them out. They could be used by millions of people to do something better with their lives.
And make you rich. Very noble.
After what they did to you, you don't owe this place anything.
Christian is a character that is near and dear to us. She's often our favorite, and in season 3 she took the back seat and kind of chilled out. Now in season 4 they're going right back in and giving her a lot of political stuff. So what is happening with Christian, and what are your thoughts on it?
Christian is going to have to run for election, which was what we predicted when Gao stepped down. And in this episode, she's dealing with all of the stuff on Ellis/New Terra, and has Gao come in and give her resignation formally. So she's figuring out how she's going to deal with running for election. And as we sort of touched on when we were discussing the Yum Yum moment, she seems very excited by this prospect. She's not at the moment scared of losing.
Why should she? She believes she is right. And when she has had to go up against opposition before, she has won because she was right. She had that as something that she rued in a previous episode where she's like, I fucking hate being right. But it is a motivation for her as well. It is something that helps her justify her beliefs and her actions of, I am correct. I have been proven correct every other time, and it has worked out not just for my own personal benefit where I'm the leader of the Earth, but I've literally saved the Earth because of my judgment. And now here is this woman questioning it and wanting to run against me. It's no problem. And with the husband, with her new husband, he plays into this as the voice of concern, the voice of reason, you could say. Somebody who is there to at least be the devil's advocate, because he questions her. He says, maybe you should get a campaign manager. You
need to get this sorted, and soon. Where she's just like, oh, it'll be fine.
But you're spinning too many plates, Christian. You're having to deal with all of this stuff on Illis. You're having to deal with being the Secretary General. You're having to deal with running against someone. You've never had to run for office before. You've just found yourself in the places you've found yourself in. It's something that you are not familiar with. And although we aren't fans, per se, of the recast, I think the writing for him is still very good. Now, I am going to remove if Brian George was saying these lines from my mind because
it's not helpful.
It's not helpful. It's not helpful, but I'm glad that they've included his character in season 4. I'm glad that he has returned and that he is the one person who can talk to her. But even then, as we see in this episode, that doesn't mean that she listens.
No. And we do know that is an aspect of their relationship from what we've seen in earlier episodes.
What else do you get out of Christian's story? Because my main concern is although I love this character, there's not a lot to chew on with her stuff thus far. It's
I'm
just
not that interested in a political race.
I mean, I really am, but you need more than just that statement of Christian gets into a political race.
Oh yeah,
I
mean, like with the way that they've presented it thus far, it doesn't feel like I'm like, if she wins, she's basically in the same spot but more solidified, right? If she loses, she's still going to be right, and hopefully she'll go out and be with the rest of our characters. So it's just like, either way, I'm quite happy with the outcome.
You're going to the direct possible outcomes. I'm stuck on the journey of
I'm just like, well,
thus far.
I feel like I can imagine what will go down either path. Like, I know that it will be solid whatever we're given on that road, but I'm not like hanging on to see what happens next.
They just skirt around what I desperately crave. What I desperately crave is for them to dive deeper into the things and into the conversations.
Like, explain to me the process of basic more. I would like to know a little bit more what that actually looks like.
And the realities of it, and perhaps Gao will tell us that in the next episode, but I just wish that they could get into the complexities. They have done many times over, and in Christian plots, it's one of the reasons I loved Ehrenreich as a character, because he was this nuanced web of deception and ill intent and failed nobility, and Christian was this person who was challenging him, and she was challenged by him, and now we're in this state where all I can say is, oh, this could be an interesting plot. But in this episode, in this singular episode, and also the previous ones, I'm not getting really much out of Christian other than it's great to see the character. I like her quips, I like her outfits, and I like the potential for what this could be. But give me more, such as it frustrated me to no end that her storyline ended in this one before it got started, which is at the end, she finds out a key piece of information about Gao. That Gao cheated her way into a higher form. Seemingly, but she's saying it as if it's a fact.
Yep.
She
but
seemingly
I'm
has cheated her way.
immediately suspicious of that.
Of course, it's most likely even a trap for Christian. But she has found out that her rival has seemingly cheated her way to the top. And that obviously is bad. But Christian decides to leak that information. It is a choice.
Quietly.
It is a choice. She is offered a choice, and I was waiting for her husband to have a negative reaction to that, to actually see his wife do something so
play dirty.
To play dirty, to play overtly cruel, because Christian is getting off on this. She likes that she has this information. She likes that she's going to screw over her rival. She likes it. When she delivers that line about leak it quietly and so on, and let the press deal with the rest, she's relishing in it, and I was waiting for the next step to happen to make the scene more, which was for her husband to have a moment of reaction or even debate with her.
Disappointment is what I was expecting from him, and instead we got nothing.
We just cut away. When Gao came in, what do you think about her, this character of Gao? We haven't got too much of her, but what we keep getting of her is someone who opposes Christian. And as someone who likes Christian, what do you think of her character, the characterization, what she's offering?
She feels disposable. That's what I'm stuck on. It doesn't feel like she is a force to be reckoned with. especially compared to Christian. It doesn't. It at the moment, I feel very comfortable with Christian's position.
What
It is a direct threat, but like Christian, it's just like, well, I think you can deal with it.
What are they and what aren't they doing with her character to make you feel these ways? Because I feel like if you lay out on paper what they have done with her, it should be much more compelling than it is.
She feels functional. That's a big part of why this episode is feeling mediocre at best, is because it's functional. Avasarala needs a threat. She hasn't been in elected office, so let's do this. Because she has a very clear point of view and not everybody would share that point of view. Okay, let's do it. It needs to be somebody who it feels like very planned out and methodical of like the choice that was made that led to her being the character that she is. It doesn't feel like she's a person in this world. Because that's the way that Aaron Wright felt, and the previous Secretary General also felt, and Anna felt as well, was that they are people who found themselves in this world because of the lives that they led. But because of what we've got from Gao so far, it is that she's there because she's what Christian isn't.
I think she's a bit of a hollow character. I don't like the performance still. I don't think it's very good. And I feel, again, horrible when I say that, because I always give actors the benefit of the doubt, but I have not been bowled over by her. And when you have her facing off against one of the most, let's just say it, one of the most talented and eccentric performers in the show, it makes you pale in comparison. And you need someone who also has their own gravitas and eccentricities.
Which was why it was fascinating when she finally got to be with Holden.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did not think that he was a good performer for a good chunk of this show. Like, we thought that he was...
more so than I always thought Stephen Strait was fine, but the character so-so.
That was what I was about to clarify. That it was just like... He's doing the thing of being the character, but the character isn't
there when we yes, but then eventually he did. But Gao,
but like, so it's just like, well, they managed to do that with Holden.
The central debate between them is that Christian is precautious. She wants to take things slowly and safely because although there are these new frontiers, we do not know the dangers and there could be horrifying ramifications. Look what happened last time we played around with the proto-molecule.
Fucking Eros.
Or even what happened at the Ring, where there was all of this mayhem and the possible end of the universe stuff happening. And Gao's position is, well,
we've survived every other time.
Yeah, so. The ring space is there and people are going to go for it no matter what, so we might as well just rush in blind. And yeah, we've survived other things before, so who cares? And it's not as if the show, and I want to emphasize this, it's not as if the show or the performance is playing up Gao as someone who is dangerously dumb. You see that with a lot of politicians in real life or in media where they are arrogantly dumb or just dumb, and yet they are going to rally up the people to go by. No, she is being played by the actress and by the show as someone who has almost like a legitimate claim against Christian, and I just don't believe that. They haven't had any way to make me convinced that, like with Aaron Wright, where Aaron Wright was horrible, duplicitous, monstrous, calculating, but each time he got into debates with Christian or he was making moves against her, you could feel like it was a good rivalry. Like, he has this sick justification behind what he does, and you could see the rationale behind it, even though it was morally duplicitous. With Gao, it just feels like this stooge that they have there. For I like, do you think we are supposed to believe her stance in any way?
No.
That there's any credence to what she says? That
No.
her views actually should challenge Christian? Or is she just an idiot?
But what I do think is we are meant to appreciate that the people of Earth agree with her. Lots of them do.
We just haven't seen much of that. All we see
we're
is
just
them being like,
told. We just keep on being told that people aren't going to sit around and wait forever. And we get that at the ring too, which we don't check in with in this episode.
No, but we're seeing the Belters are the ones desperate enough to do these dangerous things because they've always been, while Earth is
and they have
of
nowhere
privilege.
to return to.
Yeah. We keep getting news segments saying Gal's running for office, and that's it. It's not even as if we're getting a sense of even the media is on Gal's side. It's more, as you would say, functional. It's just function of we are setting up this plot. It's the plot I'm probably the most excited for, but at the same time, it's one with the least amount of nuance.
I don't
currently.
know. Bobby's plot doesn't have a lot of nuance to it.
Ooh, Rachel is here to keep slamming a Bobby plot.
You really fucked things up for David.
Where is he?
At least now I don't have to listen to him go on and on about you. It's fucking pathetic.
I need a lot more makeup if you don't tell me.
I just want to get through talking about this one. Like, I really do not... I have a reasonable amount to say, but I just don't fucking care enough to say it. But for the sake of the pod, I'll try. So Bobby is getting dragged into the syndicate because, of course, after destroying a drug lab, there are consequences.
They kidnap her nephew because, of course, they would, you fucking idiots, Bobby.
They take David and they tell her that you need to leave this door open. And she wants a guarantee that it isn't for weapons because she won't do that. She won't let them have things that are going to immediately kill people. And then she does it after first trying to go to the cops. Turns out the person that she was talking to from the syndicate is a cop, is a detective.
The best detective as well. That's a thing. He is one of the greats. So he is trusted.
High conviction rate. So she's not going to be listened to over him. Then she does the thing anyway, but she scopes out who comes in and takes the thing, and she uses her visor and figures out that it's Belters.
OPA. Mm-hmm.
Probably OPA. And she meets up on the train with the detective, who informs her that David is home safe, so that means that he doesn't get shivved.
And he makes her an offer. He makes her a temptation.
Yes.
He says, you should join us because Mars has changed and we are changing with it while it is declining. It is giving up on its dreams and it is wasting the potential, including you.
You are a
great
symbol
potential
of this because you have these skills that we built up because we were so geared towards war. And now you are sitting there just being pulled apart or rusting, waiting to be thrown out.
And your job is to tear apart our great war machine because it's very symbolic. But it ties into your character where that is happening to you as well. And are you going to sit around and just be stripped away? Or are you going to join something greater, something bigger, something nobler? And Bobby, of course, shoots that down because you're just filthy capitalist.
She turned down Avasarala, who gave her the same sort of opportunity, but in a more positive way.
In a less sleazy way than this.
But both of them are saying Mars doesn't deserve you and you deserve better.
I'm going to break some hearts here, specifically Rachel's. I liked the Bobby stuff.
That's fine. That does not break my heart. In fact, it warms my heart. Because I am glad that you enjoyed it. I don't want to yuck your yum.
She said a thing relating to yum. I'm so proud.
For me, it was just very drab, and it is well constructed and well delivered, but with this plot in particular, it just suffered from being too clear where it was going to end up. And I wasn't invested in the journey because I was just like, well, no, she's definitely going to take them up on the offer. She's definitely going to investigate. And then she's been so hard-lined about this as a one-time thing that he's going to offer it to her.
Whether it is something of a willing nature or something coerced. Why I enjoyed it in a weird way. One, I will say the things that don't work for me about it. So one, what you just said. Everything you said I think is completely valid. Two, it's an idiot plot. This only happened because Bobby was an idiot. Bobby was stupid and kicked a hornet's nest and then was shocked. Then was shocked that the hornets came out to sting her. Like, it's motivated and coerced as a plot. It's just done because we needed Bobby to do a dumb thing so that way we can get to these beats. And I loathe that. But within this episode, it was the one I enjoyed the most because, yes, it followed along on familiar patterns, but along each way of it, with each scene, it was building upon itself, and it was saying things, it was examining things, it was looking at the thematics, as well as exploring and fleshing out the world that Bobby is inhabiting. It was going into her character's psyche, as well as the psyche of Mars around her. So when it all eventually paid off with the conversation between her and this crime lord, it was so satisfying to me that we had that in the first place. Something that I was really wanting from the other stories was in this one, where each scene was feeding into the next and building it up and up and up and up, and the big payoff to it was characters sitting down and having an argument of ideology, an argument of philosophy, an argument of different points of view. And yes, of course, we don't side with this new character who's sleazy, but unlike with Gao, I see why his point of view exists, and I could see the temptation in it. It's just he himself as a person isn't the most alluring because he is a capitalist crime lord, sleazy, corrupt cop. Yeah. But that there is the frustration on purpose, where he is making completely rational, well thought out, well argued reasonings for doing what he's doing and why Bobby should change, but it's coming from the mouth of somebody that you wouldn't trust for a single moment, and that's the beauty of it. Like, that's the stuff that I'm looking forward to in seeing this plot. It is the exact opposite of what we got in season 1 with the OPA and Diogo and Anderson Dawes, where Anderson Dawes, even though he's slimy and charismatic, everything he was basically arguing you only saw through a strictly selfish lens. Yeah. With this guy here, it's not as clear-cut to me. Like, you could argue, and we would argue on the side of it is that, but at the same time, we are so well aware of how Bobby feels about Mars and her position in it that you can see why his points have justification behind them, because in Bobby's eyes, even though she's pushing back against it right now, that is how she feels. She feels what he's saying, hence this exists. While in season 1 with Miller and Anderson Dawes, their conversations always felt like they were being told to us. Like, you feel this way deep down underneath the hat, Miller. And I just sat there going, I guess that's how he feels. You're telling me that's how he feels.
Bro.
Cool story. It's episode 2. While this has the benefit of we've had 2 seasons previously with Bobby where she can be in this moment and you can genuinely buy into it. So, yes, surprise, surprise, I actually enjoyed the Bobby stuff.
I enjoy the sort of other part, sort of the subplot to this plot, which is that Mars is just falling into decay and becoming more like Earth because now it has everything that it wants, pretty much. I really like that idea.
A brighter future, written in big writing, as we watch Bobby walk into a plot that says otherwise. What did you feel about the crime syndicate? Because we scoffed and rolled our eyes and said, oh no, last episode, like I think I said very viscerally, I can't wait for this to end. I don't want to watch a rinky-dink plot about some low-level gangsters.
It was not something that we enjoyed about season 1 when we were on series. So why would we like it on Mars? But I like the idea of it. The execution I'm not as interested in, but I like the fact that these intergalactic shifts, but also like the galactic level of, like Christian says, like it's for the first time, basically in their existence, Mars and Earth are allied.
They're united. They're
united.
equaled.
And I like that that's fucking over Mars because their identity was built on being in opposition to Earth, and now that no longer exists. So what is going to push them forward? And we have seen time and time again in The Expanse that humanity can be good, but humanity is motivated by greed.
And should, slap our hands if we don't say it. That actor of the corrupt cop,
Sopranos.
it's the priest.
Baby.
It's the priest from Sopranos. And you know what that means? The Expanse has hired 2 of the most pathetic, weaselly, spineless men from The Sopranos in their show. That's very amusing, because Ashford was in The Sopranos as the guidance counselor who fucked Carmilla, and then he was all upset that she used her pussy against him. And now we have the other character who's upset at Camilla for not giving him pussy, but also he's upset at himself for not wanting. It's just a whole thing of the priest. And I immediately recognize him. Yeah, he's aged, he's bald, and he's evil in this.
Oh, but the voice.
It was the voice and the eyes.
You do think I'm a schnorrer, don't you? A parasite. I asked you that before and you denied it, but clearly that's what you think.
No, you know what I think, Father? I think that you like I don't even know what to call it, the whiff of sexuality.
I'm annoyed that Bobby's plot was motivated by an idiot doing dumb things. But when Holden does it at this point, it's charming because I feel like the show knows it. The show knows that Holden's whole hero complex and wanting to do the right thing and following people because he doesn't know what else to do other than follow is bad, actually. Like, the show treats it as this is a character flaw, and we know it. So when he does dumb things and it makes things worse for everyone around him, it doesn't bother me anymore, because the show has drawn a line in the sand and said, we are doing this deliberately. This isn't us being lazy writers. This isn't us cutting corners. This isn't us doing it for convenience sake. It is making a statement in itself that Holden follows dumb things and enacts dumb things and makes things absolutely terrible for everyone else around him.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
Because he flipped on the switch for Miller, and now Miller's not here, and now they're going to have to deal with the fallout of what happened.
I can't remember if it was this episode or the last one where he was just like, oh, if Miller gave a shit, he would have warned us.
That was this episode. That was this one, because what happened? They flipped the switch, and
Now lightning is going off in a very, it's not real lightning. It's clearly manufactured because it's going off at these intervals in a straight line.
Yeah, it's going along the terrain in certain intervals, certain measurements of distance, and Alex says that Holden has activated some sort of circuit underneath the ground. That's what it comes across as. That's the theory right now, and we see a portion of the
activates a what I look at and go like, oh, it's like terraforming farming equipment where it's just churning up the earth.
Yeah.
And then they shoot it with a missile.
They activate something that is devastating, 3 miles worth of terrain? Something like that. A great amount of distance is being destroyed by this thing that's just spinning. It's a Beyblade. If someone set off a Beyblade and now we're having to watch the horrifying ramifications of it, and the danger is it's going to head towards the colony.
But not straight through, just on the edge enough to fuck everything up.
Of course. And the colony was already fucked up by the lightning. The lightning struck the town, hurt people and devastated the town and ruined everything and made the power go out. And you see for the rest of the episode, everyone else trying to get the power back up and running. When I say
not
everyone, not everyone. But what do you feel about Holden being this person who cannot help himself?
But I'm going to ignore that question and come back to it, because I just want to say that I'm really enjoying the way that having the outsider biologist changes those scenes. I really enjoy her addition because she doesn't know Holden's history in the same way that Alex does and in the same way that the audience does. So it's nice to have her there being like, what? Why are you doing it this way? And we're like, oh yeah, like, that's glowing blue. That needs to die.
But in her defense too, she thinks that she's the one that's first responding to this disaster and realizing where it came from and the technology behind it, only to slowly twig together that Holden, this person who is in their eyes, the company's eyes, and the Belter's eyes, a lapdog of the UN, may have set this off, and she doesn't know his intentions.
Like, fucking how did you do it as well? Like, she has no context that he's got Miller inside of his head. And
is that a good thing, even if she did know that? Like, we don't even, he, in this episode, as you said, about Miller, about his statement about Miller, is that good? Like, is he just following the orders again, following the rules, following the beliefs of something insidious? He doesn't know, and she doesn't know. Like, all she is getting in this episode is a slow dawning realization that Alex and Holden
are hiding
stuff, and they may be nefarious. They seem like nice people, but they're withholding. They're not telling us everything. We, the audience, know, but she doesn't, and she's here on the side of science. Science, Rachel. And that's a big question that is up in the air during all of this, is how much do you let scientific advancement and knowledge get in the way of things? Because she's there, as is the RCE, to gain information, gain resources, gain the benefits of the unknown, to explore, to examine. And Holden, he says he's not for that, but also at the same time, isn't he following a literal investigator whose entire thing is to do just that? to flip switches and see what happens?
I don't know if Holden even sees it that way, though, because he really is blinded. Like, he's just like, he felt like he had to cut the route and help Miller because he knew, like, he was pressured into it and manipulated into it, but he also wanted to do it.
It's a delicate balancing act of, we've seen the show very much explore this many times over with the proto-molecule, with everything relating to the ancient alien race, preserving technology or restoring it or tinkering with it, taking it apart and building it into something new. That was what Mao got up to. And is it grave robbing? And is it bad? And when does it go too far? Holden makes it seem very black and white. Like, he sees this spinning thing. He figures out, oh, it's going to come over and destroy a portion of the colony. Shoot some missiles at it and stop it. That will do, right? Very clear cut, yes?
Yes.
But then she
argues... What are
argues...
the consequences of doing that, though? And don't we need to know what's going on? And it might make this other thing happen. And he's just like, nah, this is what we're doing.
You know what this dynamic is? Her and Holden? It's Prax again. Where Prax, when he first came in, he was Mr. Science, logical. He was like a Star Trek character where let's approach this with communication and an understanding, and let's look at the scientific data of it and really confer before we just go in guns blazing. And Holden has learned through the seasons worth of horrors and adventures he's been through that is useless at this point, seemingly. So fuck it. Let's just blow this thing up. And it works in this episode. It's seemingly
we don't know the
correct.
Consequences of that decision.
Is it interesting to you as a fan of Amos that Holden has become more and more like him during the series? Because that's a very Amos point of view. We see it in this episode where he's like, I needed that thing. They wouldn't give it to me. So I beat them the fuck up because I needed the thing. Holden is going through that same process of elimination with many things nowadays, where it's just like, that over there is going to do damage, so I blow it up and that should stop it. But Holden, what happens if there's unforeseen consequences to those actions? Well, I don't believe there will be, but if there are, we'll deal with it when we get there. It's like, he used to be a lot more forward thinking.
Oh, yeah. Now he's gotten to the one problem at a time Lockley approach to things.
Oh, man, he is such a Lockley from Babylon 5. He even loves, drinking coffee, but does he put a fuckload of sugar in it like she does?
No.
Not really.
He doesn't exercise on the edge of glass tables.
He does exercise. Stephen Straight's body shows us that at some point he gets a lot of time in for the Rocinante gym that they have on board. We know they have a gym on board. When does Holden work out? He's so busy. Do you ever get distracted by that with shows like this where they are fucking jacked, but with how stories go, you question, when do they get the time to become jacked? Like, when do they get the fucking time to work out? Like, when did Dr. Franklin in Babylon 5 find the time to work out when he was on stims and working 40-hour shifts? Like, when did he find time to go to the gym? Like, it's one of those things where Amos is fucking ripped, and yet, with everything we've seen in this show, I'm like, when does he get time to have a workout routine? I don't know what their time management is.
Listen, Mercury is my boss. My job is to follow orders. So don't think I won't shoot you if you pull that kind of shit again.
Okay. So does that mean we're not fucking anymore?
What? No, I guess.
Cool.
Your favorite character, Naomi, gets quite a bit to do in this episode, Rachel.
She does. She does, and she's just continuing to be fucking stupid. But that's just who she is, because she keeps on pushing herself even though she knows that her heart is not strong enough. She's still pretending for everybody else and trying to fool herself into saying and thinking that she's going to be okay, and then we get confirmation from the medic that no, she's not. And then she also goes up against Burn Gorman when there's no fucking reason to.
But she's right. She's the only person who is vocally upset with what he did in the last episode. We see other characters for a moment, but then they get distracted. And that's commented upon. They get distracted by everything else, and they have to focus on it.
First things last.
Yes, and Naomi is the one with the most vitriol because she has suffered at the hands of men like him.
And that attitude is part of what really upsets her about the Inners, of they feel like Belter's lives are not worth anything.
I appreciated Naomi in this. She was the glue of the Illis plot.
Oh, yeah, but I still found it frustrating. Like, I enjoyed it, but it was frustrating.
Is it frustrating because she's just holding on to this deception that will eventually blow up in everyone's faces?
Yeah, I think it is. That's a big part of it. Like,
I just like when Naomi gets to be professional and chummy and get on with her friends and work together for a common cause. And when she has righteous anger, I like it when they just do that. I don't need this undercurrent of hypocrisy and bullshit and deception. And I don't think it adds. I think it detracts. Like, everything else she was doing in this episode, I thought was good and engaging and
I like the interaction
nuanced.
that she had with the medic's kid and husband as well. Like, when they're fixing things up, and the mum is just like, "Don't inspire my daughter.
Don't you dare and be an inspiration for others," which when Naomi started the show, she never thought that would be her. She never thought that she could be someone that is a hero or someone that would step up or someone that would inspire.
And she detracts from her. She's like, oh, it's like nothing special. It was just...
Yeah, she downplays it. Naomi, at least her inclusion in this story makes it easier to buy that the locals, the Belters, want to talk to anyone from the Rocinante, because she is a Belter. She knows how this goes. She has a deep understanding with what they have been through. And you did go over it already, but we learn more about the med tech. We get more moments of spending just quiet scenes with the side characters or newer characters. And
I go back to a word that we've used a bunch for this episode, which is functional. It's fleshing out the world. It's adding details to her. She's clearly being set up as an important linchpin in the fight between the two settlements. And she's also having a personal not crisis. She's just like, I've made this decision for my daughter, and I'm being a parent. I'm being a parent. It doesn't matter if she hates me, because this is what is best for her.
she also is in conflict because her fellow Belters, most likely former OPA members, from the attitudes we get from them, want to attack, and she does not want to be a part of that. But it's also a betrayal for her. You can tell it's not played too aggressively. They don't linger on it, but they let that actress sit in the moments in between the lines of dialogue about that, where you can tell it's eating away at her, because she does feel a sense of loyalty to these people, but it's against her code. It's against where she is now, who she is now, what she's doing now. She's a respected member of this community. She's a parent. She's the medical person here. That is much more of a priority than possibly who she used to be. And my theory is she used to be an OPA person, most likely, with these people over here.
Because she recognized Naomi by her voice.
And I'll put this, I know this is an early thing for predictions, but I'll put it down. I wouldn't be surprised if she, the doctor, was one of the people responsible for Burn Gorman's ship blowing up in the first place. I wouldn't be surprised, because the group that wants to attack him, they are so like cemented in the belief that she will be there and she will help them. Yet everything we have seen thus far is so abundantly clear that she wouldn't. And I personally would not be surprised if we reveal later that she did have a part in the destruction of the ship or the blowing up of the landing pad, thus making it, in retrospect, this crew's trust in her make way more sense than just unspoken history. That's my early little prediction. I'm going to drop that in there.
I have a prediction, but I am going to save it for the predictions section.
I'll make sure you remember it. The town is struggling for power. Everyone is helping out except for...
Well, all of the Belters are helping each other.
And Amos is helping, and Naomi is helping. Everyone's helping each other except for one group. RCE, the corporation, they're not helping.
No, I love the way that he's like, don't lift a finger. Don't lift a finger to help them.
This is clear as day what they're doing here. This is a selfish capitalist group. This is an evil corporation who are not there.
They do a mass murder.
They do a mass murder.
Like, we started the episode with the repercussions of a single murder, and now we got a mass one.
By the end of it. And in between, their apathy is very much lingering in the air. We have many shots of characters like Amos, characters like the town doctor, characters like Naomi, looking at the RCE crew over there with their guns and their disdain, not doing anything to help. And it just builds the tension of, this is not going to go well. And Amos says it. I think it was Amos. Somebody says, well, they've made it clear they've drawn a battle line.
I am more interested in this than I thought I was going to be, because it was just like, oh, evil corporation doing evil corporation things. But it's just like, you know what? This villain genuinely feels dangerous.
I'm a little bit mixed, because one of the things that makes it good, I'm a bit eyebrow raised on, which is they make it abundantly clear in this episode that the corporation itself is indifferent. It's just an entity. It exists. The people within it are good. We see the nice plucky scientist lady. We have her friend on the ship in space who's giving them all of the intel. He seems nice. His peers around him seem very personable. Amos's love interest lady, she seems like a good person herself, but it all comes back to Burn Gorman and
the
how
leader.
He is the bad one, and that she, his right-hand woman, says the damning line, which is, I follow orders. That's a very charged statement to make, historically speaking, and within this series, the I follow orders. And Burn Gorman, his character, who is so disrespected by the show that Amos never says his name properly except for in the most poignant scene of the episode, which we will break down in a moment. I don't know how to feel about the route of the people within the corporation aren't bad. It's just one bad actor. Like, it's one bad dude, and he just happens to be in charge. And if they killed him, we'd all probably get on much better. Like, if Byrne died, the corporation here and the Belters and the Rossi would probably just get on better. It just feels, I don't know, it's tricky. It just comes across as very delicate of, I appreciate them making the corporation side not just black and white evil, like they're evil, they're all maniacal. Like, here's characters you genuinely enjoy and you like spending time with and you feel conflicted about. And then you have this one evil person who, when he makes an order, they all bow down to him because they follow orders. I don't know. Like, where do you fall on that?
Yeah, it's convenient. That's where I fall with it. Like, it's just the convenient thing to do. It creates a lot of interesting and dynamic drama.
Someday I think you and I are going to end up bloody.
How about now? I'm free right now.
You mentioned it. It's the most poignant scene in this episode, and that is when Amos sits down with Byrne.
With Murtry?
Murtry.
He keeps calling him Murphy and Muddy and like all these different names, and then he correctly says his name.
Yeah.
To make a point of, I know what you are and who you are.
Yeah, but also that confirms that I don't call you by your name because I see you have so little worth. Not because I don't know it.
I don't respect it.
I don't respect you at all. And I loved this scene.
You're a big Amos fan, you're a big lover, and there's a lot of build up to this. We have many shots of these two staring at each other, giving each other the stink eye. You're waiting for them
over long distances, and then we see Murtry waiting in the corner there for Amos.
In the bar, yeah.
In the bar, ready to confront him. And he's ready to play the game. And then Amos doesn't play along.
Or he goes further into it that Murtry isn't actually willing to go. He isn't willing to put his money where his mouth is. Because his whole entire thing is, I'm here to threaten you. And Amos says, great, I love threats. In fact, you know what I love even more? Acting on them. So how about you try and fucking kill me right now, and I'll try and fucking kill you.
And it is a reflection of the scene that he had with his fuck buddy earlier in the episode. Like, him being like, yeah, okay, but this thing? And with her, it's like, oh, are we still fucking though? And with this, it's just like, okay, you want to kill me?
Let's do it. Oh, you were just playing a dick measuring competition and you're just pissing in the wind? How embarrassing for you. I you know what? I'm all on board for this villain. Because he's so pathetic. He's so pathetic. I don't find him intimidating at all. I find him absolutely pitiful.
Oh.
And I think that's on purpose, because when you have this scene where Amos says, all you are is a killer. That's all you are.
Oh, but like,
there's nothing more to
like,
you.
You got hard when you did it, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. I love this because he breaks apart any doubts that the audience could have. Amos just says, you're not a nuanced person. You're not complex. You're not this fascinating, morally ambiguous character. No. You're just a killer.
Yeah.
I know that. And Murtry does the whole, oh, because you're a killer too. Like, he's trying to be all one-upsman. And Amos is just like, yeah. You're not going to beat me in this argument because I know what I am.
I'm
happy
denying what I am.
Yeah,
you are hiding your nature behind your position.
You're like
and you are not going to fool me, and you're not going to drag me into it.
And it brings up that this character is fooling himself. He believes in some way that he is not just a mindless killer who's looking for an excuse to incite violence, but it happens. Like his worldview is when it happens, it happens. But
then he can't, like, he does.
Because after that moment, you see him try to not give into the bloodlust so easily.
But he does. And he drags all of these people from the RCE into it for him. He doesn't go there alone.
No, because he would lose.
But he goes there to win.
And to show his power, to show his dominance, and to show his strength, even though he's a weak man. He's a pathetic man. He doesn't want to actually kill Amos or fight Amos because he would lose, because there's no way he could beat him. He's an underhanded, slippery little rat who would intimidate the town's doctor, the med tech.
He will find a way. He will try and find a way to make it so that he wins.
He's here to just get off. I don't think he gives a shit about the company's goals or anything. I think he's here to get off, to just pleasure himself in the power of it all. When he is talking to the med tech and he's using this dialogue about how he doesn't want violence and he wants to de-escalate things and this and this and this, the undercurrent of it all is the fact that he actually does want these things because it would be super cool. But he can justify it because here I am.
Say that. I'm not dumb enough to say it out loud to somebody whose job it is to save lives.
And also somebody who's maybe in on it, because he's trying to leverage her. He's trying to make her give him the information. He's trying to give her an out in a way, but it's a trap.
Pretty much everything with his spy equipment.
Yeah, and it's a trap. He's trapping her because if she doesn't tell him what he already knows, then she's complicit. And if she does tell him, she's complicit. Like, no matter what it shakes out as, he is there to make a power move. He's not there for any...
No.
And he could fool himself.
He has the pretense of adjusting the thing on his leg, and she's like, really?
And again... I believe a part of this is...
I can't say no, but I don't believe you.
I think a part of all of this is it's him fooling himself into thinking he's not so simple as Amos believes, and it makes him get off on it, the prolonging of it, because what's stopping him from doing what he does at the end immediately? As soon as he hears through his microphone pickup of them planning, why doesn't he just immediately get his boys in, drag them out, and shoot these people? What's stopping him? The conversations that he had with Amos and others stops him because he doesn't want to come across as that simple. But by the end, he says, fuck it, I am that simple. And he walks up to the guy and is like, to answer your question, and he just executes him.
He waits for the justification because he shouldn't know that that's what they're planning. But when they get up and they're like getting ready to go, it's the last second.
They tear gas him.
Now he goes in.
But here's the thing. Aesthetically, just like when he shot the other guy, aesthetically, from a purely visual standpoint, he doesn't have a leg to stand on.
No.
All they see is he shoots a bunch of people. Yeah, all everyone sees, clearly, is he shot an unarmed man in the first bit. And then in this episode, him and his boys throw tear gas into some building, make people run out, and they shoot all of them being unarmed, seemingly. And even if they were armed, they didn't have the means to defend themselves because he made a preemptive strike against them. Yeah, I love it. You know, I was a bit concerned about he's just a shitty guy with a gun. But like with Holden being a guy who can't help himself, and that is a good thing, and the writing is making it explicit that this is a flaw. I believe that this is the similar thing with this villainous character where he is pathetic. He's someone that we shouldn't respect or be intimidated by, that he is just an equivalent to Amos, but he doesn't have the honesty that Amos has. Like, Amos at least knows what he is and what he does, and he's been slowly but surely learning the repercussions of that, not on just the people he uses it against, but on himself. But Murtry, he's not even worth the breath of thinking of such things, so why bother? What would you rate this episode on a scale of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good?
I end up at a yum.
Yum.
It was not bad, but it was not good. It was okay. It was functional. It was serviceable. What about you?
I won't be thinking about this episode too strongly after this discussion. Now, if it does come to pass that in future episodes this one will ring out louder, I'll say that, just like I did with the first episode of the season. But I actually enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a good time. Yes, it was serviceable. Yes, it was functional, but that doesn't mean it's bad television. You need these episodes from time to time, and I thought that it took an extra heaping of goodness than the previous two. There are elements that I wish went into just more stuff, like with Christian's story. I'm feeling that it's very lacking right now, but I give this a yum yum.
Yum, yum.
I'm waiting for a great episode, and perhaps next week's episode is in fact great. I don't know. I haven't seen it before, and Rachel, you haven't seen it before, but you know the title of it. I do not. I haven't read the title. Rachel's going to read it out, and we're going to make our predictions of what happens in episode 4 of season 4.
Retrograde.
What are your opinions? Retrograde.
I don't know. I have a random theory that I want to get out of the way first that actually has nothing much to do with the episode title. But I think the med tech is going to have had something to do with Naomi losing her child. And I think that the med tech used to work with Marco.
Interesting. Do you think we'll ever meet Marco?
Yeah, I do.
In the season?
I do think we'll meet him this season.
Well, that'll be my prediction. Next episode, Marco rocks up. That's my prediction.
Maybe I would be surprised by that because we didn't get anything at the ring. So
there was no teasing in this episode of Marco.
Yeah, if we got more stuff at the ring with Marco next episode, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, my big prediction for the next episode is I believe that the device that has been activated underneath the Earth has made some horrifying ramifications to the ecosystem, terrain, and environment, and that will come to a head in the back half of the episode. Like, I feel like they're going to be...
They mention the swarms again this episode.
And, yeah, but I'm looking at it as like...
But I wonder if it's going to be like
the
next level up.
Yeah, next level up. Like, if I have to make a guess, I feel like with the title being Subduction here, it didn't really come to pass in the way that we thought it was, but I'm still going to go on that train of thought of this device that's spinning around, maybe it's fucking up the tectonic plates and it's going to bring about like a tsunami or flood, and the village has to run away or die, and that's going to be a huge conflict of you have these groups, the RCE, the Belters, and the Rocinante, having to argue and fight against each other to do the obvious thing, which is to band together, work together to survive, because the Belters are proud and they don't want to rely on the help of others. The RCE are selfish, disinterested, and the Rocinante is stuck in the middle. That's my big prediction for the next episode itself.
We did this last episode as well, because the title choices, especially for season 4, have been very specific words. So retrograde meaning have or being in motion in a direction contrary to that of the general motion of similar bodies, and especially east to west among the stars.
Ah, okay. I mean, I don't have any, I'll be honest, outside of just saying Marco will turn up, I don't have any major thoughts on the ring stuff. for Ashford and Drummer, other than Drummer is going to have to meet this chaotic guy called Marco, and
But that also works with like the sort of
and Ashford's calling of the heart to be a pirate piece of scum. Like, that's my thought on him, but I don't really have too much for those guys.
No, but like that kind of thing works in with the like star sign implications of retrograde, where like it means that you're in stress and it's a turbulent time and you're being turned around and you don't know what's going on and you don't feel like you're in control as much because everything's going the opposite way.
So, any other predictions for what could be happening next episode, or do you have anything that could be happening in the series as a whole? Did this particular one make you think
the biologist
that, this will
is going to
happen?
get pulled in more? I really like her and I want more of her.
What's her name? Like Dr. Elvie something or other. They said both like her first name and last name in this, but it was like one time. I'm still getting used to these new characters. Give us time, we'll learn their names.
Referring to the medtech as medtech.
Lucy? I can't remember. Something
something like that.
We'll learn them eventually. They're new faces. I'm still calling him Bern Gorman because the show doesn't respect him. But you were saying that you think they're going to bring her in more?
Yep. I feel like she's going to get to the point where she's like, just tell me what the fuck is going on, please.
She'll betray the RCE because she's so horrified by what Byrne has done. We saw that in this episode. It really perturbed her. Yeah,
she was really upset by what he'd done. And now he's gone to a whole new level. I think that the bombing of the turning thing
is
going to have
ruin.
negative consequences. Potentially it is sent into retrograde maybe, and
did they set off a big bomb for themselves again? They do love big bombs in this show.
We'll find out next week.
And that is our discussion for Subduction. That was this episode, right?
Yeah, Subduction.
I was like, that's the name of this episode, Subduction. A very interesting little episode, and perhaps you like this one more than we did, or you hated it. We'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. You can...
As long as you keep spoilers to yourself.
As long as you keep spoilers. Again, this is our first time ever watching through The Expanse, and we release these episodes on our Patreon first, so if you have the means or the desire to do so, you can support our podcast on Patreon. You get to be a part of a group Discord where we talk about things, we watch things, we have a good time, and you get these episodes much earlier, as well as a whole bounty of bonus content that doesn't make it to the main feed. If you do want to contact us a little bit more directly, you can send over an email, which our email is
yumyumpod@gmail.com.
We are on all of those social medias under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast, and please rate, review, and share the podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help us out greatly if you did so. And that is our discussion for this time. We will be back next time with more adventures of Havelock, who we have learned some things about. Now, we say do not spoil stuff for us. We say don't give us spoilers. But we'll just say it now. Someone in our group Discord did let us know that Havelock was in this book. And that Havelock's story revolved around Illis and Naomi. And that he gets a whole chapter. And the books, from what I know, are from the point of view of the character. So can you imagine a whole chapter of Havelock's point of view? That's insane. I can't believe it doesn't make it into the show. Truly tragic. And I haven't read the books, nor have you, Rachel.
No.
But I don't own a physical copy. I don't have an audiobook, but I can only intuit from what I know of Havelock, who's a great character. We all loved him. The Warren Keffer of The Expanse. his chapter is just blank pages. It's just page after page after page of just nothing written down. And when you listen to the audiobook, it's literally like 90 minutes of white noise, because that's an accurate representation of the thought process of Dimitri Havelock, Rachel. I keep forgetting he had a first name, and it was Dimitri.
See you then. Well, voila.